All right, welcome everyone to another XAFer community stand-up. Today we're going to be talking about if you have been in SAF for a long time like us, you will have some nightmares of some migration from legacy products to the new versions. There has been a lot of changes, a lot of great changes in my opinion, but from the old reports module to the old security system to the new SAF Blazor, like we also had a SAF mobile in the middle, we have SAF React, kind of like there has been a lot of variation. So happy to talk and discuss a little bit about those. Today they are doing some internet work here on my neighborhood, so my connection is a little shaky, but Jose as always have a lot of great content if I get disconnected for some reason. And and that's it. Thanks everyone for joining. We do this once a month and really excited about having these conversations and just basically sharing our experience. As always, join our Facebook group. We are more than 3,500 members, so and growing. All right, Jose, what do we have today?
Yeah, today is going to be an interesting show, especially because um, I decided to put like on small examples the most common problems that we have faced during integration with legacy products. So I did a small PowerPoint just with the links and then some example codes. And anyone can share also which problems have you had while you do integrations with legacy systems. So to get started, I will
Let's see.
start sharing, Javier. So here. Okay, I hope that everyone can see my super PowerPoint where I only put an image in the first slide. And the topic of today, as you said, is legacy nightmares. Integration with legacy systems can actually be a true nightmare because you really don't know what you're going to get. And there is no company that exists in the vacuum. Whenever you're going to go and do your first staff application, they have systems from before, they have databases from before, and it's our duty to interact with those systems, right? So here are a few cases that we have found and the possible solutions. Of course, you need to see which is best for you, what fits your use case, and also try to do it in the right, clean, correct way, because if not, you will have um, technical debt, right? So the first case that I want to show you is wrong database types. And here I will talk a little bit about the experience. The first time that I used XPO, it was to connect to an ERP that is called Sage Agpac, that is made in, or used to be made in Canada from Computer Associate. Now it belongs to Sage. Um, so that ERP have some specific characteristics. One is that all the dates are stored as integers, surprise. So when you map your XPO classes or your persistent classes, then you need to do a trick. So um, the fix for this is to use value converters. So in here, let's see, I will try to show it also like in the browser. The concept of value converters is basically to show a data type and then store it as a different type and do all the conversions. So here is the theory about it. The link is on the presentation. So the idea is basically you have your persistent property, and then on top of that, you register a value converter, and the value converter will have two methods, from storage and to storage, plus another method to return the actual type of the column. So to exemplify this case, I have loaded the Norwind database, and I added an extra column to the order class, or to the order table. Sorry, I always think about classes, not tables. So in this case, we have the normal date, and I added an extra one that is called legacy date, which is an integer. And if you can see on the table definition, on the columns, legacy date is basically an integer. So How we handle that is in the orders class, what I did is I registered this, like a value converter that is going to return a datetime. But if we see the implementation, let's go to definition. Basically, here we have a few methods to convert the string to date. Sorry, the integer to date and all the way around. So in here you will see, I will put here like some breakpoints and run the application. So you will see how for XPO and SAF in the end, it's totally transparent. Like once you register the value converter, if you manage to do the conversion of the data, um, you will be working basically with datetimes in your application level. Of course, the storage will be still integers, but um, but that's what we found in legacy systems. There is no other thing to say there. So let's wait for this application to spin up. Um, my computer is a little bit slow because I've been trying to decide if I should stay in Windows 10, Windows 11. I've been going back and forth. And I think I'm going back to Linux. I just need to see if my computer will handle it because for some strange reasons, MSI computers, they just become like super slow, even if you have like 60 gigabytes of RAM and things like that. Okay, so let's go to the application. By the way, this application is on GitHub, is open, so you can download it. You can see also the queries. I think we have someone asking something in the chat. Windows 11, Windows 11. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm a big fan of Linux and Mac OS. So let's see how that goes. This computer is not working well. I'm thinking about moving back to a desktop, actually. Okay, so let me just close all the tabs because I I made this example this morning when I woke up and said, okay, let's do example code of all the possible problems that we can find. Lately we have been doing a lot of legacy integration, so this is what we've been talking about a lot in the office. So now it's hitting the breakpoint, so let's continue. I want to start from scratch from like the first view, so this is going to take forever because it's going to hit the breakpoint for each record. So, okay, so just let me close this. As you can see here, this is the orders table that I showed you before. Yeah, I'm a big fan of WCL. So, okay, so here, like this is the legacy date. And as you can see, it's represented not as an integer, it's represented as a datetime. And if you go to the detail view level, is represented with a property editor of a datetime. How this did happen is through the value converter. So if I want to show, like I want to change the date and convert it to the integer, actually, what I need to do is, and I'm going to go here inside to this method. If I change this date to whatever other date and I save the record, it's going to the convert to storage method. And here what I'm receiving is a datetime. And what this method will do is it will format it as a year, month, date string, and then that will be passed as an integer. And in the end, what we'll have in the database is an integer. So what got stored was an int, and just to show it from a new record, we'll add the order. Well, let's see which. Let's find something here. And let's set the date today and save it. It's going to the convert to storage method and then it's parsing and blah, blah, blah. And if I go to the database and see the records, let's run this again. And I think it's going to be actually the last one. See that in this case, everything is null. And see, the date is an integer. So that's one of the most common cases. I set this on order of from most common to less common. So this is the case that we found like in most databases. It's like data types are wrong or they don't match the XPO mapping of data types. So this is how you can get away with that problem. Like by doing value converters, they can get really complex. We have like some of them that do basically by black magic, but this is kind of an easy example. This is an example that exists in a really big commercial ERP. So that's why I wanted to show you this one and also was my first one to solve. So let's see. Yeah, the integer value, like I use the same idea that 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 ERP used to have. That was all the dates are integer, and first is the year, then is the month, and then is the day. So you create that this integer that is fixed size. So I wanted to simplify the first case that happened in my XPO life like 20 years ago. Okay, so this one is kind of the easiest one. So let's go back to my super PowerPoint. So here you can find all the information as I showed you the link before. And the second one is a little bit more interesting. We have this case in a big legacy system on Italy. What they have is that some tables, they just don't have primary key. They handle the primary key in code, not in the database. So the tables are kind of messy. So there are a few ways to handle this. To handle the little view is one specific theory, but to handle the list view is another theory. So I will show the list view one. So what will happen if I have a set of data that doesn't have a primary key, which, believe me or not, is more common than you think. So the trick that we do in these cases is we create a view, and in the view, we generate a GIF, basically like random GIF each time. So the GIF doesn't, you cannot use it as a pointer to the record, but at least to load the list view is good enough. So if I have these SQL sentences also, the ones that I use for doing these tricks are in the source code. So let me show you this one. So let's go up here. So this is what I use to update the dates to integer. This is the view that I created to exemplify the missing primary key. So in the view, I select some records from a table, in this case, the order table. And what I do is like I return a unique identifier as, and then I use this column as key. So let's see. Uh, order view, that's the name of that class, order view. Hold on, let me close the layer, otherwise I will be getting like messages all the time. Okay, so in this order view class is basically the trick here is we use xplite. Why do we use xplite? Yes, it's an SQL view. What we use xplite because the xplite base object doesn't extend your tables. It doesn't add columns for concurrency or garbage collection like the fair deletion. So it's good to have a representation of the table as it is without having to move anything on it or adding extra columns. So the trick here is that the name of the class should be the same name of the view, or you can use the persistent attribute that will work actually the same. And then you set that the key is that column that in the view's name unique identifier. And then you said that it's not auto-generated because it's not going to be auto-generated. You cannot save records on a view. At least in SQL Server. In Oracle, there are some concepts that you can save data to a view, but also on Postgres, also Oracle and Postgres can do that. But in here, like we do a database view, and then we map it one-to-one to a persistent object. This object cannot be saved, actually. So in here, and cannot be deleted because you cannot delete the record from the view. So what you have to do for that is that you have to override the on deleting and on saving. And then you throw any type of exception, whatever you want that will break the transaction. It can be just a simple exception, invalid operation exception, friendly exception. So that's how you can get away without having a primary key in the table. You wrap it as a view, and then you have a column that you calculate whatever you want to calculate it to be the primary key. With taking these considerations of the on deleted, on saving, and mapping the key column. This is needed for not only for XPO, but for the components themselves. The grid needs that information, especially on web. So that's the second case of legacy nightmares. I mean, sometimes you have your beautiful XAF, XPO, super clean design, and then you go to the database and it's a huge mess. So this is kind of the second trick that we use all the time to map to legacy data. Actually, most of the cases that we're going to talk today are mostly related to data, not so much to the XAF projects. Like we have the case of the security system and the reports module, but those are really extend. So maybe we will leave them for just a specific meetup, just for how to handle that. And also we have some of them in the past that show a little bit how to do that migration, but that can get really, really complex. So let's see. Case number 3. Oh, well, just to see the information here. Some useful information is to see which attribute we can use, which is the persistent attribute. That can show you how to map a table that doesn't match the name of the class. Let's see, the chat is really active today. Yeah, I mean, I did the trick that I know. We use a trick actually with the identifier, but you can also compose a primary key out of the values of some other columns. Whatever it fits in your case to generate a unique value for a column because the controls need them. So thanks, Eddie, if I'm pronouncing your name right. Thanks for showing the query. It's really useful. Thanks. So well, let's go to the documentation. Still, I need to show another link. So that's the persistent attribute. And this one, which is actually good to know, is, and this will be a general invitation, check the base classes, check how the persistent objects are composed and how do they work, how this is the hierarchy tree of which services are you going to have depending on which base are you using. So here I put this information just to show that the methods like onSaving and onDelete, and you can override them and break them just to make sure that they will not save that record and they will not delete that record. Anyway, if they do, you will have a really ugly database error that will be like this big, like red on the screen. So it's better to handle the exception yourself by throwing those not implemented exception or invalid operation exception. Okay, so the next case, and as you can see, it's getting a little bit more complex. This one, I will say that is also super common to find it in 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 the wild, which is most of the legacy databases that we have found that we need to interact with, they don't have referential integrity. What does that mean? That the constraint between parent and child classes or tables are not defined. So it means that you can have some child records or some detailed records that they don't belong to any parent. That if you have a normal XPO design with the association attribute, it will not happen. It will actually create a constraint to make sure that that doesn't happen. But since those tables were not created by us, then this is something really useful to have. So let me show you. So the idea with this attribute is that you will turn off the foreign key creation and eventually the constraint of the master did the constraint. So in here, see, they have the association, and in the order, they say that there is no foreign key. So this person class will not be a foreign key on the orders object. So for that, we need to go to the database. So let's go and take a look here. So we have orders, and as you can see on keys, you have a key for the employee. All of these are foreign keys. That's why they are FK foreign keys for those of the other tables that are pointing to it. But in the case that I'm showing you, or that I want to show you actually, is if we, here this is order. And then we have, hey, what is the, no, it's the name of the file is not, I remember that it was a really simple name, is, let's see, cluster key. I think this one is, okay, yes, I think it's this one. I will make it not that small. So we have a person with, I name it foreign key because there is another table named person, and orders foreign key. And you can see that we have this decoration here, like no foreign key attribute. So if we go to the database, in here, we have orders. So if we check the keys, there is only a primary key. There is no foreign key with person here. If you see the keys, only the primary key. So there is no constraint. That is really useful when there is no referential integrity in the data. So that I think you will have to use 100% of the time that you go to legacy systems, because you cannot ensure the quality of the data and that the tables are created with referential integrity. So just to have like one small stop, like I want to say hello to the people from Dominican. Half of our office is Dominican. So I speak Dominican too, besides Salvadorian and Chilean Spanish, of course. So, okay, let's go back to another case. Here, all of this that I'm showing you looks really simple, but it took some time for us to figure it out in general, like what is the best way. So these are just kind of the tip of the iceberg, but you need to go deeper on your own use case. Because I'm showing you like kind of a super simple case. Maybe it's not going to be like that for you, but these are the tools that you can use to not having to recreate the data or do a huge data migration to convert the types and so on. Sometimes you just need an attribute and your application will work. So the next case that I want to show, well, at the beginning, I thought a little bit slow, but I think I'm going fast because we're almost half of the cases done, and it's only like 30 minutes. So I guess it's going to be a quick show tonight. So this one is way more interesting, to be honest. And we just faced it all this last week in the office. We got like, as I guess everyone knows on this meeting, we we make specialized XPO connectors. For example, all of the XPO connectors for DB24i, which is a special database for AS400 servers that exists in reality that use XPO, they were created at SARI. So we have a case where, oh, okay, hi JP. Yeah, I didn't understood any of the words that you wrote. Uh, let's see, supporting DBs without foreign keys is a building on Quicks and on even with SAP. Well, to be honest, no, like going back to that case, sorry that I will quote this example here. There is a reason to avoid foreign keys. And it was a shock for me because I was in the university taking database classes. I mean, imagine 20-year-old me or 18-year-old me, something like that. And I was I was working on IT already. I was working as a junior programmer. And that ERP that I mentioned before, AgPack, um, it was strange because first they have the dates stored as integer, first shock, right? And second shock is that there was no foreign keys at all. And there is a reason that they do that. They handle the referential integrity in code. And they did it like that because if not, it can be really hard to import data because then you have the case of the egg and the chicken. What was first, the egg or the chicken? If you have this ORM that is ultra related to each other, like you have a lot of references, sometimes it's almost impossible to know on which entity you need to be the first to import data to then import on the other ones. For example, imagine an invoice. In an invoice, you have to import first the customers, then the headers, also the products, and then the order details or the invoice details. So it can get way more complex than that. So if you have foreign keys, then sometimes it will be impossible to import data, especially at database level. So there are some special things that you can use in Ado.NET. There is a way to turn off the constraints temporary just to import data and then turn them on. But of course, as JP said, that can be kind of tricky. So I kind of understand when people did this. For example, datams are complex objects, are complex types that depending on the database, you will have time zone, offset, and so on and so forth. So 20 years ago, maybe it was too difficult to handle that. So it was way easier just to handle integers. So I kind of understand why they did it. But nowadays it's not like that. So of course, I'm against all these practices, but that's what you found in the market, right? Okay, so going back to this, the business logic on the key generation, there are some systems or some tables that they do have a primary key defined, but the key should fulfill some logic. So this was a lot of fun to do it when I did it this morning. The sun was shining where I live, which is in St. Petersburg. Finally, there is sun. So I said, like, okay, I will write some code. I will write some SQL queries, which is not my thing. So let me show you the code for that. Here. So if we go to the queries part, take a look to this. For this one to exemplify that pattern is first I created a function. Basically, this function, what it does, it validates if the value of the column start with letters and continue with numbers. If you do it the other way around, the constraint will reject the value. So first we have the function to validate the value, which is something that I just found last week in one customer. And then you have the table. And in the table, you have the primary key where there is a check that will execute on this column based on this function. So what it means is that if the value that we set doesn't represent the exact pattern of this expression, you cannot save the record. So kind of tricky, right? So let's go and check that one. So what was the name of this example table? Is this one, I guess. No. Let's see. Is this one? Okay, so in this case, see the column is just a string, but it's the primary key. And what I did for this case is I override the after construction to generate a valid value for that primary key. In some cases, you will find something like this that people use with triggers, or they have database functions to generate the values. For example, there are some cases where people use the ID number as primary key, which I think is a mistake in general, because you should not include any business logic on key generation, because if the business changes, then the key generation should change also, which is a really complicated case. So in this case, in the after construction, I generate a value that is valid for that expression that I showed you before. If you go to definitions, here basically I'm generating something that starts with A, and then it put the daytime as numbers. So let's go and check that one. So I think is this one. Let's create a new one. So in here, this is a valid number because it starts with letters and then it continues with numbers. But to show you the error, I will put a number first. So if I save this, bam, this ugly red error that customers are super afraid to see, or users actually. So in this case, what happened is that the function that is checking the value of the primary key with expression, say like, no, this is not a valid value. So to basically save this record, I need to just remove this because it's expecting a letter first and then numbers. So save. So, okay, this was valid. We have two records now. This one that I did this morning and this other one. So this is a kind of simplistic case because I'm generating a kind of a really simple value that match. But in some cases, you have to go to a web service to get the value of the key, but that's how you do it, right? You can do it at two moments. You can do it in the after construction, but the problem that if you do it in the after construction, you might waste a key value. Why? Because what will happen if I open a new detail view? I don't save and I close. I wasted one position of the keys. So most people do it on the on saving. So on the on saving, you check if the key has value. If not, you generate one and then you save it. So that case can go either way depending on your use case. So the idea is that you might find some tables like that in reality, and this is how you fix this problem. Okay, so I'm flying with this. I did it too fast. Let's go to the PowerPoint. So this was kind of interesting because I found those cases where you have these validations on the columns, like I see them in the customer's site, but I never created myself the function to validate the column and so on. So it was kind of really interesting exercise. So the next case that I want to show you is, and this one is also a beautiful one, compound keys, which which people like them. Like say, let's say like your license driver and your ID are the primary key of a person if you have them both, right? So a lot of logic on first, because it's like you need to validate the license and you need to validate your ID. But it's not only that. Then you have a compound key, where if you check on the Developer Express support center, you don't find those conversations anymore, because people now is more used to have like just primary key that is a single column. But in here, they show you an example, and actually I created this very same example where you have a struct, which is basically a type of class, like it will be like a DTO, some type of record. Um, and that represents a type. And then again, you have to use whatever base you want to use, expedite, something that doesn't provide a primary key. And then you use this type as, as a key. So for example, here, as you can see, you have this property and it's decorated as a key and browsable false. And then you have any other property that after that is like normal. So to see this in code is, let's see, this one cluster primary key. So in here, what I have is, first I'll have the sales key, which is store ID, order number, and title ID, which is a struct type. And then I created a method to generate random value for these columns. So here I'm generating a random value for store ID, order number, and title. Whatever logic you use, you can make it in code or get in a store procedure, whatever is it fits your use case. So, and then for the class, I use XPLite. And then again, I did the same idea, like in the after construction, I generate the value of the key. Also, it can be generated on the on saving. So, and I added some extra columns just to show that is, I mean, beside that, there is nothing special. So let's run this one. So we have here. So let's see. No, it's this one actually. So in here, as you can see, you have two records. And what is interesting is how you see it on SAF. So I will open the ones that we have already. So the primary key shows as a single type, that struct shows as a single like property. And the struct is composed by basically these properties here. This one, this one, this one. So these are required for to create a key actually. I mean, you have to have your own logic to validate that those have values, those have values and valid values. So if I want to create a new record, see in the after construction, I pass the values here and then this type is created. And as you can see, this type only show the name of the type. So the best scenario will be to put it browsable false. I just put it browsable true just because I wanted to show you that, see this how SAF represents struct values. Actually, I think that they changed how they represent these values, because before they used to represent it as an aggregated object. You have this little pop-up, I remember, where you can fill those values. And then you can basically add any value here, and then you save it and it's good. And if we check the database, let's try to find that one. Let's see this one. First, let's check the definition. You have, see, all of these are the primary keys. these three fields, and then you have the normal columns. And when you go to keys, you have this key, and you can see how is composed by, see, these three fields or properties or column, as you want to name it, are the primary key, which is also a really common case on the wild, that you go to the customers, everyone have like compound keys, missing primary keys, and wrong types. That's what I can say in general. So let's check the data. And it didn't show anything. Hold on, which table is this one? It's called cluster key. Let's go to the code. A cluster primary key. So let's see. Is this one actually? So see, I have the records that this is the one that I just created, this one here. And these two are the ones that I did this morning. So as you can see with XPO and XAF, we can cover most of the cases. And as also you can see, it doesn't require a lot of code, but it requires like knowledge of how XPO is structured, how SAF is structured. And they have example for all the possible cases. So most of the time is about doing a little bit of research and see what fits your case. Because in most of the cases, you cannot change this structure on your customer side. It is as it is, and maybe, and we have that case really often, we are coexisting with the legacy system. Those tables, they don't belong to the XAF system that we're creating. They are shared between the new system for the future, which is XAF Blazor usually, and then the old legacy system that can be, it can be Fox Pro, Delphi, like you name it. We found everything on the wild. Actually, we're replacing like 30 systems on Delphi with XAF using DB2 for I. So you have like all these cases like that you can interact with. And it's not a lot of code, but it requires some testing and kind of knowledge of what what we have or for or like at our disposal to do these integrations. And that's almost everything for today. These cases, I run out of time, to be honest, because it's been a crazy week in the office. So we will leave them for another meetup. But we have some of these on all meetups. Maybe like 15 episodes ago, we did report migration and security system migration, which is something that also have that we have like not so common, to be honest. The most common cases are the ones that I showed you before, like wrong data types, missing primary keys, um, not referential integrity, and logic on the key generation, beside compound keys. So this we will talk about maybe on the next show, like in 1 month. It depends. Maybe it will be AI. But JP, is there something that you want to share, like any experience that you have? Or if anyone wants to share any experience doing legacy integrations. Right now, everything looks so simple, but most of them were a nightmare at one moment or the other. So if there's someone that wants to share like any experience, we still have like 10 more minutes. Um, yeah, I have your video, GP. So let's see. Actually, we were talking about that with Javier, so just let me grab it. Or if you can put it in the chat, will be good so everyone can see it. We were talking about that. Oh, okay. So I'll get it from the email. with Javier and JP, we were talking about that. Well, C# is not that not so old if regarding languages. So let's see. Yeah, just 1 second, because my computer is going crazy slow, especially with Zoom. So even to search my email takes forever. So okay, JP, like go for it while I check for the link, which yes is taking forever also, and that might be that I'm going through a VPN. I always go through a VPN, so yeah, this is taking forever. So let's wait for JP to join us with the video. I hear some sound, so I guess it's you, Jean Paul. Or my computer is about to explode. Any of those. Uh, let's see. If not, I will just try to scroll to it here. Okay, now it's taking forever to open. So bear with me. Maybe what I should do is I should stop sharing and try to open the video. Yeah, I hear some noise, but I guess it's my microphone or my computer, which seems is about to explode. Let's see, I have some experience moving Visual Fox Pro. Yeah, actually, Eddie, like that was a really common practice on Fox Pro. Just to give you guys some like nice information, that something that we have been doing in the office. We have an XPO connector for ODVC, which is something that's supposed to be a no-no, but we say like, let's go for it. And we did it. And with ODVC, you can connect to Fox Pro. Like, it's not a general connector. It doesn't fit all databases. But instead of going to the here we have, hold on, I need to share my screen. My computer is finally working. So let's see, soon. Let's put this on pause. Let's share the screen. We share the screen, JP, and if you want to explain something about the video, go for it.
Yes, you can hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, yeah, this is used on a legacy XAF application that's almost there for 10 years now. As you know, I think from previous sessions we had, I wanted to use the domain components that are now no longer supported by XAF. And during the life cycle of this application, you create a lot of classes and properties, etc. But over time, you want to you don't remove them at the moment you move from definition A to definition B. And what we did recently was comparing an old system with a tool that I show over here. If you go back to the beginning of the video, you see that you can compare two schemas, the database 2 and database 3. And then you can find out what kind of objects are no longer used in the the most recent definitions compared to the legacy database. It creates a long script with around 1,500 lines or so, and using Copilot, we constructed this code to remove the old parts of the components in the database that are no longer used. So that's mainly we did. You see that there are two schemas, SCRM2 and SCRM3. The legacy version has 349 tables, and the other one more than 100 less. This tool allows me to compare the structure of the database and creates a script for me. It also has the functionality to move columns on different positions, but Microsoft SQL doesn't support that, so those lines are removed from the script. And those, this is the full script of the complete database. And the problem is you need to, we used XAF update schema to execute this script.
A specific type of nightmare, because with domain components you get
for instance, you see the highlighted line, you see that the GC record is removed, and this table bedrijf is inherited from a party table, and with XPO, it's on the party table that GC records is supported, and not on the children that are aggregated from this table. So that's the reason why this legacy column can be removed. So that's what we are doing.
But not anymore. So I guess the internet is failing. And sorry, JP, that I cut you off. Also, I just wanted to say that moving from domain components to persistent classes is a specific type of nightmare, because what happened with domain components is that you do like a lot of segregation, like hyper segregation, I would say, which I love it, to be honest. Like as a technical example, is beautiful. And I like that interfaces, they don't have implementation. It's just get and set. That's how the persistent object should be done, actually. So I like the composition, but to be honest, my hat is up for you in that sense that it requires a lot of expertise to move out of domain components. And I know that you have like a good communication with Developer Express, and they give you a lot of tips on, okay, this is how you need to do, what you need to do to move out of domain components.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Completely true.
Also, there is one case that I want to bring on, that also we are checking with some customers, is that XPO sometimes creates some indexes that are never used. Domain components is okay, like it was like some type of persistent objects that they were not objects, actually. They were not classes, they were interfaces. So you have the interface that represents the data, something like a POCO object or a DTO, and then you have a separate class for the logic. You can compose them. There is like a beautiful documentation for that in the old Dev Express website. I guess they will remove it one day or the other. But I used to love that technique, and I used to show it a lot when I was teaching XAF, just as a technical example. But thanks God, I never make a big system on production
I did, and it's a nightmare to move away from it. So stay away from it.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful, but then it's a really specific nightmare. That's why I was telling you, like, that brings you some type of suffering, because you wanted to do everything well. That's why you use domain components. It's a beautiful design pattern. But then a few years after, I don't know for how long you have them, maybe 5 years, something like that.
No, I think so, something like that, yeah. So a huge, and there was also a discussion recently on Facebook regarding the expand framework. I also embraced that for several years and moved away from that framework also. And also that had a lot of legacy tables within the database.
Yes, that's something that we discuss often. And I will give you my personal advice there. Sometimes you need some functionality from a nugget, from a DLL or whatever. If the DLL is open source, go to the GitHub repo
I
and
copy
just get
pasted.
the part that you need.
Yes.
And put it in your. That will reduce the dependencies, the compilation time, and
yeah.
so on.
What I didn't like from that framework is that you override your XAF application by, in this case, the expand application. So you are fully dependent on that new framework. And that framework finally is dependent on the XAF application, of course. But if you, for instance, upgrade your XAF version, you also need to upgrade that framework. And that was always a hell of
and maybe the versioning will not match. That's, to be honest, I have published a lot of mini frameworks, nuggets, and things like that. I do just one version. I put the repo on, like online. If anyone wants to continue it, I use it for my specific case, but then maybe someone will depend on that. And I don't want to keep it maintained. I just use it one time. I just wanted to share it with someone. And there is people like, hey, I use your nugget. Like, when is the new version coming out? And it's like, I don't have the time.
Never.
Never. It's like, never. So that's why I put the praise there. That's the complicated part with the open source community. Like, you need to have a big community, not depend only on one person, because if you go out of your building and someone roll over you, like, you're done. The framework is done.
Yes.
So that's everything that we have for today, guys. Thanks for showing. I hope that the information is is useful for you. We will publish this video on Javier YouTube channel. And right now, after the meeting is done, I will publish the repo that I show you on the Facebook group. So you can take a look to the source, the queries that I did to do to exemplify the bad use cases. And if you have any doubt, don't just reach out. The community is big, and that I love that to see that it's really active lately. So thanks for showing, and see you in 1 month.
All right.
Bye,
Thanks. See you.
everyone. Take care.